Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. William and the bidders, including those who had failed to win, were all shocked by the price. They had also seen the other potions that were of superior grade on display and waiting to be auctioned. The Tower of Dusk was definitely going to make huge earnings just from this auction. Those who were jealous of the Tower of Dusk for having a group of senior pharmacists previously were now even more envious and jealous because of the auction. The next item that is going to be up for auction is the Vitality Potion, which can help warriors break through to level 15. Just like the previous item, the quantity sold in each round will increase gradually. The auction for the first bottle begins now, with a minimum bid of 50,000 gold coins. The auctioneer grabbed a bottle from the second stack, which was now the bottommost stack. In the land of Amril, warriors were the most common profession, and it was much easier for one to become a warrior than a mage. As long as one was able-bodied and did not suffer from any mental disabilities, they would be able to learn combat skills and develop combat energy to become an impressive warrior who could wield a sword. However, the journey to becoming a warrior was not always smooth sailing, and talent was also an important factor. When the forces of the breezy plains gathered together at the Tower of Dusk, everyone was thinking of recruiting the senior pharmacists of the Tower of Dusk, and hence continuously sent gifts after gifts. However, the outcome was, to their dismay, just that one of them only managed to receive a potion which would increase his strength after presenting the gift. Hence, Ona, who led the Crimson Mercenary Corps, managed to obtain 2 potions which he shared with his son. The 2 of them then broke through to level 15 after being stuck there. The sudden addition of 2 level 15 warriors in a mercenary regiment which started off with only a few hundred mercenaries was akin to multiplying the strength of the regiment twice. It could be said that Ona was the only one who had gained anything from the pharmacists of the Tower of Dusk. The potion that was being auctioned now was also one that would result in a breakthrough to level 15. 6 vitality potions would mean that there was going to be 6 level 15 warriors who could reach level 19. In fact, the advancement requisites for warriors were not as strict as those for mages. The potion was not necessary for one to become a sword sage either. Although warriors could not compare to mages who were of the same level as them, it was still an incredible power that could not be disregarded. The blood of nature was used for prevention purposes, hence, its effects would not be seen immediately, and they wouldn't show at all in some people. The effects of the vitality potion were very substantial, however. Every bottle contained a single dose of potion that would significantly increase one's power and abilities. Hence, a huge commotion broke out amongst the audience as soon as the auction began, and they began buying with one another for the 6 bottles available. Within a short period of time, the 6 potions were sold at a high price, with the average price being 200,000 gold coins per bottle. However, it was definitely not expensive for a potion that would transform an ordinary warrior into a level 15 one. Congratulations, President Felix. These 2 potions are very popular amongst everyone here, said William, who could not help but begin to feel a little jealous. However, he thought to himself, luck really is such an important thing. Hard work can never beat luck at times. You're being too polite, Mr. William. These are just potions that they've concocted during their practice sessions. It's not a big deal at all, Lin Li said modestly. Wilkinson and the rest were also discussing the outcome of the auction while shaking their heads and sighing. Had they known earlier that the potions could be sold for such hefty prices, they wouldn't have poured away the various amounts of potions concocted during their practice sessions for the sake of saving on the bottles. William almost vomited blood as he thought to himself, could you guys please show some sincerity? Those potions are worth tens of millions of gold coins. Stop acting so loft and provoking others. Damn it, how could you say that? These 2 types of potions are worth more than 2 million gold coins. Yet, they were just concocted during your practice sessions, and you even poured away plenty of them. Why don't I gift you with some bottles? William was so agitated that he almost spat blood out. Meanwhile, the auctioneer had already begun auctioning the next item. there was a huge uproar. The sky-high prices gave everyone a huge shock, and they were all green with envy, all wishing that they could go to the Tower of Dusk and kidnap the pharmacists. While some were feeling jealous, some were wondering if they should put in more effort to recruit the pharmacists. Others were also wondering if they had not worked hard enough. Actually, Ona was a good example. He only spent a small amount of money on gifts, yet he received 2 potions which cost more than 200,000 gold coins in return. The next potion up for auction is the most magical one that I've ever seen throughout the years I was an auctioneer. It's also from the Tower of Dusk, and was concocted by the respectable senior pharmacist, Wilkinson. The auctioneer grabbed the last potion that was on display. Silence filled the air while everyone fixed their eyes on the small potion bottle for fear that they might miss a single word of the auctioneer. What were the effects of this potion? What about it was so magical that even the head auctioneer of the time consignment store couldn't help but be in awe? They'd never once heard about it before, let alone seen it. The auctioneer scanned the audience in satisfaction. Although he remained composed on the surface, the excitement that he felt deep down was intense beyond words. The sky-high prices made him look forward to the auctioning of the next potion. If it weren't because of William's words, he wouldn't have believed that such potions existed in this world. This potion is called Origin, because its purpose is to lead you to find the origin of magical power, the auctioneer exclaimed, trying to suppress the excitement in his heart. He carefully held the potion with both hands, and stared at the curious guests before continuing. Once a mage takes this potion, he will soon slip into a mystical trance that will last for about a month. It will seem like a dream, in which the mage will possess 5 magical powers that will stay fresh in the mage's memory even after he wakes up. The auction for Origin Potion begins with a minimum bid of 550,000 gold coins. However, no one dared to make a single sound after the auctioneer announced the start of the auction. The auctioneer's introduction gave everyone a great shock. The thought of the sky-high prices of the items that had been sold off previously made them find it all to be rather surreal. They felt like they were dreaming, and plenty of people found the effects to be rather unbelievable and ridiculous. Learning about magic during a dream? How absurd. The auctioneer was stunned by the lack of reaction. There had been countless auctions held by the time consignment store, and there was bound to be a huge commotion during every auction, all thanks to William's good judgment and taste. There had never been silence before. Just as the silence was getting peculiar, someone yelled, 600,000. The person who placed the bid was none other than Sienna. He had previously bought the Twilight Dragon armor, which was rather useful to him, unlike this potion. However, he knew how formidable Lin Li, the owner of the Tower of Dusk, was. Even if no one placed a higher bid and Sienna ended up purchasing the potion, 600,000 gold coins would be worth it if he could forge closer ties with the young President Felic. Sienna's bid had indeed had some effect on the audience. His words were like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples on the surface of the water. Everyone snapped out of their trance, and decided to stop worrying about how the effects of the potion could be made possible, and whether or not the desired results could be achieved, because the pharmacists were the only ones who knew the answers. They would just be making things hard for themselves by trying to speculate and dwell on the theory behind the potions. All they needed to know was that the potion would work and they ought to be careful. Actually, the theory behind the potions did not matter to others at all. What was important was that the potions had already been put up for auction in the time consignment store by William. The time consignment store and William were both very reputable, and William obviously wouldn't put at risk the reputation that he had painstakingly built. The thought of the effects that the auctioneer had mentioned made them break their silence. 1 million gold coins. Tedia exclaimed, placing a bid which made everyone fall silent again. Learning and comprehending the 5 magical powers at an advanced pace was undoubtedly a tempting and irresistible offer to mages. Magic and spiritual power were the foundational elements of a mage, but the strength of a mage was not all determined by the foundation. Only by mastering more advanced magic spells could they better use their magic and spiritual power to increase their strength and abilities. If the only effects of the Origin Potion were to help the mages master the 5 magical powers, it would not really be worth its price. Although magic spells were important, there were still plenty of other things to learn. The key lay in advancement, and advancing to greater levels in magic was not as simple as just reading some books about magical spells. In reality, it was possible to learn magic at an advanced pace, but there would be huge risks involved. By biting more than they could chew, the mages would risk falling into an abyss. A limited understanding of the rule power would make it impossible for one to accommodate the requirements of being at a higher level. It would then inevitably result in dire consequences. However, everything would take place in a mystical and bizarre dream through the use of the origin potion. Everything would remain a hallucination, though it could happen in real life too. It aligned with the rule power. 1,200,000. The person who vied with Tetia was once again Hilary, the prince of the Leaden Kingdom, who was out to provoke Tetia. However, another guest from one of the VIP rooms immediately placed a bid of 1,500,000 gold coins, before Tetia could even place a new bid. The guests below the stage were all dumbfounded. In the blink of an eye, the current bid had surged from the minimum of 500,000 to 1,500,000 gold coins. Even though they came from formidable forces in the breezy plains, 1,500,000 gold coins was still not a small sum. Besides, 1,500,000 gold coins was not the final price. There was still a higher bid that was offered. 2 million. To everyone's surprise, the person who had placed the bid was not one of the VIP guests. Everyone turned to see that the last 2 rows of seats were empty, and the bidder was the only one who was seated alone in the middle of the last row. He was wearing a hood which hid all of his features. William was seated in the VIP room together with Lin Li, which was right above the last row. Hence, he, too, had no idea who the bidder was. The bidding price of 2 million gold coins was unlikely to shock everyone. What was surprising and peculiar was where the bidder was seated. The seating arrangements were made according to the strength and status of each of the guests. Those who were allowed to sit in the VIP rooms were all extraordinary representatives of the various forces. For example, the Dark Blade was known to be the top bandit organization of the Breezy Plains, which had 3 legendary figures and the support of the Darkness Shrine. Another was the Prince of the Leaden Kingdom, Hilary, followed by the representative of the Glitter Gold Trade Union and the Castellan of Roland City, Arother. Due to the fact that it was an auction, those like Sienna who enjoyed high status in Roland City and the Wolf brothers who were influential in the Breezy Plains sat in the front rows, and were relatively higher in power and status compared to the rest. The further behind they were seated, the weaker they were. Hence, the bearded leader of Anglo Mercenary Regiment was worlds apart from the Wolf Brothers Association, whom he could not be with. In that case, how could the person seated in the last row be powerful or formidable? 2,100,000. Tetia hollered while gritting his teeth angrily and staring at the man below. Tetia was a necromancer who had a stronger thirst for advancing in magic compared to the average mage. Although the Dark Blade had the support of the Darkness Shrine, which provided a place for him to learn necromagic, it was 10 to 100 times more dangerous to advance in necromagic compared to other magic. Undead spells were damaging to the soul, which was much more agonizing than the side effects of normal magic. 2,400,000, the mysterious man yelled again calmly, without emotion. Thud. Tetia slammed his hand against the barrier and stood up in exasperation. Mr. William, you're the host of the auction. Shouldn't you be verifying if this bidder has the means to purchase the item? Tetia's request was not overboard. If any random person was allowed to place their bids nonsensically, the auction wouldn't be fair at all. It was common for a penniless person to raise the bids to a ridiculously high price and make the last bidder pay an absurd price for no reason. William chuckled wryly and stood up in resignation, after which he apologized to Lin Li. President Fellick, I'm really sorry, but I have to excuse myself. Not everyone had the ability to pay millions for an item to be auctioned. Hence, he felt the need to personally verify if the bidder could afford it. William did not cause any delay. Not long after he left, he proceeded to make his way onto the stage before announcing to everyone that the auction would proceed because he had already verified the purchasing power of the mysterious bidder. Tedia had a sullen expression on his face. Since William said that the bidder definitely had the ability to purchase the item, it had to be the truth. Although Tedia was the most likely to be the new successor of the Dark Blade, he was well aware of his own financial abilities. 2 million gold coins was actually already beyond his limits. Not to mention, he had already spent 850,000 gold coins on the Sparks blue stone ring earlier on. The auctioneer had already called twice, and was about to knock the gravel anytime soon. 2,600,000. Tedia yelled in exasperation while being filled with a mix of complicated emotions. He could not bring himself to be happy at all, regardless of whether the bid was successful or not. If the bid was successful, he would have to pay an exorbitant amount of 2,600,000 gold coins. However, if it wasn't, he would lose the opportunity to advance rapidly. 3 million, the mysterious bidder exclaimed once again. Everyone fell silent, while Tedia moved back to his seat. 3 million was far beyond what he could afford. The auctioneer slammed the gravel down heavily, and Wilkinson's origin potion was finally sold at a sky-high price of 3 million gold coins. The absurd reality shocked everyone. To their knowledge, there had never been such an expensive potion before. The price was truly record-breaking. Wilkinson's name was all that was on their mind, and from now on, it would definitely spread around the entire Breezy Plains too. 3 million gold coins for a single bottle of potion was an unprecedented price in the Breezy Plains. After a long silence, everyone seemed to have burst into boisterous chatter again. They clapped and gave a standing ovation to William, the Time Consignment Store's owner. And to the senior pharmacist, Wilkinson, after witnessing such a noble record-breaking transaction. However, William remained extremely calm on the stage, for he didn't seem too happy about breaking the record. After a long round of applause from the audience, William extended his hands and pressed them down to gesture for them to quiet down. "Thank you for your support, thank you. But the auction is still going on, and the item that we will be showcasing next is definitely going to be more exciting." After hearing this, everyone had no choice but to stop and return to their seats, after which they casually glanced at William, who was on the stage. They tried to guess what he was referring to, and what the next item that was up for auction would be. What would be more exciting than the 3 million gold coin origin potion? Everyone knew that there would be a mysterious auction item from the Elven Kingdom. However, they doubted that the item would break the record price of 3 million gold coins even if it were the crown of the Elven Queen. William raised his head and glanced at the VIP room on the second floor. Before his subordinate even made his way onto the stage with the item, William whipped out a blue-colored potion and carefully placed it on the display. Upon catching sight of William's actions, all of the guests, including the VIPs on the second floor, began to get confused. It seemed to be another bottle of potion, but what potion could be so formidable that it would garner William's attention like that? Everyone's curiosity was piqued, and they waited quietly for William to introduce the item. This potion was concocted by President Felix. Bidding starts at a minimum of 1 million gold coins. They were all surprised that William did not make any further introduction of the name and effects of the potion apart from mentioning that it was made by Mage Felix of the Tower of Dusk. All the guests below the stage looked at each other in shock and dismay. They could not believe it at all. Could it be that William had forgotten how to be an auctioneer after not being one for a long time? "Well, is Mr. William cracking a joke with us?" someone asked impatiently. As everyone began gossiping amongst themselves, the sounds of chattering filled the entire hall. "Hey, did you hear that? Mr. William said that it's a potion that was concocted by a mage, yet the potion doesn't have a name at all. What a joke. Who's this Mage Felix? I've never heard of him before." There were plenty of pharmacists who were also mages, because the preparation of potions itself required the acquirement of the magic elements in the herbs. Sensitivity to magical elements would aid one in preparing potions. The social status of a pharmacist was higher than that of a mage, a fact that was recognized by almost everyone. Hence, when a mage was good at preparing potions, they would definitely be more willing to be known as a pharmacist. All humans were vain creatures who liked showing their most glorious side. However, William had made it very clear during his introduction that the potion had been made by Mage Felix. Putting the source of the potion aside, everyone was shocked to hear that it was made by a mage, and not a pharmacist. Mages were not all pharmacists. Hence, it was very likely that this Mage Felix person had nothing to do with pharmaceutics. Of course, there was another possibility, and that was that Mage Felix had already attained an impeccable achievement in magic. Perhaps he was a legendary mage? Legendary mages were often known as masters. Although it was not wrong to call him a mage, it was not as respectful. The problem is, whether or not he's legendary mage has nothing to do with the auction of the potion. A legendary mage is not a master of pharmacy. Yeah, why does his nameless potion have a higher minimum bid than Master Wilkinson's origin potion? That potion concocted by Master Wilkinson will enable mages to master 5 magical powers. The simple difference in the way William addressed him was enough to make them all confused. The minimum bid of 1 million gold coins made them feel like they were being fooled. Damn it. Everyone's money was hard-earned, and they all had to pay a huge price to earn a whole 1 million gold coins. They thought, how dare you place a random potion on the display and put it up for auction at a minimum bid of 1 million? William doesn't seem to be poor and out of his mind, does he? Everyone stared at William like he was a lunatic. No one except a lunatic would be able to do something like that. The potion, which would allow one to learn the 5 magical powers and advance during a trance, was sold at 3 million gold coins, an absolute sky-high price. After calming down, the people began to compare the effects of that potion with those of the ones that they knew about. Those who understood pharmaceutics had come to a shocking conclusion. The senior pharmacist Wilkinson was probably already a master, or about to become a master. However, the minimum bid for the origin potion was only 500,000 gold coins. Yet, the minimum bid for the nameless potion was twice the price of origin potion. The effects of origin potion were already unbelievably magical. Could the effects of this nameless potion rival those of origin potion? Hey, do you really think the effects of this potion are better than origin potions? Some of the guests could not figure it out at all. The time consignment store had been around for hundreds of years, and a smart person like William wouldn't have made such a stupid mistake that would inevitably ruin the business that he had painstakingly built. However, those words made everyone else feel rather amused as they mocked him. Are you silly? Could it possibly let someone learn 10 magical powers? Even if that's the case, it's probably a potion concocted by a master. But even then, why would a master-level potion be put up for auction? It was no longer considered a doubt. Although no one knew the reason and answer, or what had gotten into William, they were certain that William was definitely going crazy. Damn it, I wouldn't dare to drink it even if it was given to me for free. The potion was concocted by a mage. Maybe he doesn't even know what he had put into the potion, said one of the warriors. They were disgusted with the 1 million gold coin potion because their money was hard-earned, unlike that of businessmen. Every gold coin they had was earned through blood, sweat, and tears. Mr. William doesn't seem like a silly person either. Maybe he just did this for the sake of giving someone a favor. Maybe the starting bid is so high because he's afraid that someone might die after drinking the potion. That's why he's making it unlikely for anyone to purchase it. At most, the item will just not be auctioned off, and he'll be able to answer to that person. There were also those who had made some rational analysis. When Wilkinson's origin potion was put up for auction just now, Sienna was the first to place his bid and had disrupted the peace of the auction. Although he was well aware that Mage Felix, whom William mentioned, was the terrifyingly daunting young mage, he did not have the courage to disrupt the peace again. Upon hearing the discussions around him, Sienna was certain that everyone would treat him like a fool if he were to stand up and place his bid now. However, that was not the most important factor. Actually, there was nothing wrong with being a fool for once if it meant that he would be able to get into the good books of Mage Felix. The problem was, what would happen after he called his bid? 1 million gold coins was not a small sum. Sienna knew that he would definitely be in hot soup if he were to intervene now. When he was auctioning for the origin potion, everyone else around him was in doubt, and the balance would be disrupted as long as someone spoke up. However, he realized that no one would vie with him for the item after hearing all of their controversial comments and their disbelief in the reputable William. Sienna dared not take the risk at all. Even though they had been developing well in the past year, it was still 1 million gold coins, after all. The guests in the hall could no longer keep their cool in the face of such an absurd auction. They talked, mocked, and prepared to see how William was going to clean up the mess. Although they dared not offend William, they were aware that there were still distinguished VIPs upstairs who were the actual big shots. How would they react after knowing that they were being tricked? Even William probably wouldn't be able to keep their anger down. Reality was just that cruel. Those who were respectful on the surface might just be cussing at you beneath their courteous facade. While they were congratulating you on your achievements, deep down, they might just be looking forward to seeing you face defeat. Damn it, what nonsense is William up to? Is he too old and all muddled? Teddy jeered, feeling exasperated because he did not manage to buy anything substantial during the auction today. Although he had managed to purchase the Sparks blue stone, he had bought it at a sky-high price because of Hillary, who had deliberately raised the price beyond the actual value of Sparks blue stone. Next was the bidding for the origin potion. To his anger, some scoundrel who sat in a corner downstairs actually placed a bid of 3 million gold coins. Just as Teddy was throwing a tantrum about the auction, his follower leaned closer towards him and whispered into his ear. Teddy's eyes widened in shock, and he turned his head towards the side. Really? You should know the consequences of lying to me. His follower shivered, and nodded firmly before saying, absolutely. Ever since Master Sendro's return to the shrine, he told lots of people about this mage Felix, whose pharmaceutical skills Master Sendros really admires. Teddy was well aware of what kind of person Master Sendros was. He was the high priest of the Darkness Shrine, the necromancer who had entered the legendary realm many years ago. His accomplishments in pharmacy were said to be no worse than those of professional pharmacists. Since an esteemed and reputable person like Master Sendros regards Mage Felix so highly, the latter's pharmaceutical skills are definitely trustworthy, he thought. Although Teddy could choose not to trust William's reputation, he definitely wouldn't doubt Sendros' judgment. Hence, he was certain that the nameless potion was definitely worth 1 million gold coins. However, he was still contemplating if he should bid for it. He still didn't know what benefits the potion offered. William did not mention a word about the medical properties of the potion, and no one knew if the potion was meant to be used by mages or warriors. Even if no one placed a higher bid, he would seem like a fool for purchasing a potion that he could not use for 1 million gold coins. Sir, I'm sure Master Sendros would be pleased to receive it as a gift since he's so passionate about pharmaceutics, the follower said softly and courteously. Teddy raised his brows, and smilingly exclaimed, 1,100,000. 1,200,000. Those who were gossiping incessantly fell bizarrely silent after hearing the bids all of a sudden. Teddy, who had just placed a bid of 1,100,000, pulled a long and sullen face. He thought that he would be able to gain the upper hand and beat everyone else to the potion for once during this auction, yet someone went against him. Unlike Teddy, Hillary from the Leaden Kingdom was smiling delightfully while being seated in the VIP room opposite him. He had heard about Mage Felix from his close friend, Los. He found out that Mage Felix was an impressive pharmacist, and he reckoned that the rascal from the Dark Blade had to have heard about Mage Felix from Sendros. As the Prince of the Leaden Kingdom, Hillary believed in the doctrine of light since a young age, and had even practiced in the Brilliant Shrine for a period of time. It was at that time that he became close friends with the bizarre and eccentric follower of light, Los, who was also the head of Necromancers I. Ever since Los had visited the Pharmacist Guild of Alana to attend a pharmaceutical exchange, he often talked about an extraordinary young chap who had an insane flair for pharmaceutics and had made various extraordinary achievements. Hillary had gotten so sick of hearing about him. This time, he attended the auction with another intention, to visit Dooland and find out what the young chap Los sang praises about was like. However, Hillary didn't expect to encounter a potion made by Mage Felix during the auction. if he didn't purchase it, and Los would definitely blame him if he were to find out. 1,200,000 gold coins was nothing to the prince of the Leaden Kingdom, and it would be a surprising gain if he were to be able to teach Tedia a lesson this time. Prince Hilary was in a good mood. He casually sipped on some wine while waiting for someone else to make another bid. Tedia's face grew sullen as he knew that competition was going to be inevitable. He initially thought that he had gained an advantage, and was getting ready to reap the benefits. 1,003,000. 1,400,000. As soon as Tedia placed his bid, he was interrupted by another voice, and thus fell silent immediately. He almost got wounded from holding his words back. Damn it! Damn it! What was I spacing out for? This is a potion concocted by Mage Felix. Rob Bio cussed in his head after he frantically placed his bid. As the person in charge of the Glitter Gold Trade Union in the Breezy Plains, Rob Bio clearly remembered his boss Hoffman reminding him solemnly to win the bidding competition for the potion concocted personally by Mage Felix regardless of the price and effects. Rob Bio obviously knew that apart from being the owner of the Glitter Gold Trade Union, his boss Hoffman was also an actual pharmacist. In that case, Master Felix's magical and pharmaceutical standards were definitely not to be doubted. 1,005,000. 1,600,000. Tedia was about to vomit blood as he thought to himself, what a damn bully. Can't you wait till I'm done placing my bid? He then decided to mimic the two other bidders and raise his bid by 200,000 gold coins. He exclaimed, 1,008,000. 2 million. The Glitter Gold Trade Union had never failed in bidding for anything they wanted. Although Hoffman was not paying with his own money, he spent it without hesitation because he had already gotten permission from his boss, Hoffman. After hearing the bid of 2 million, Tedia took a deep breath and turned around to ask his follower, do you think leaders will agree with what I did after finding out about the situation? He could no longer afford to compete with the other two bidders, because he had already hit his limit. Hence, he would have to rely on the support of the Dark Blade in order to purchase the potion. Well, if we can use this potion to earn the approval of Master Sendros, the three leaders will definitely approve, the follower answered after a moment of hesitation. Although there were three legendary powerhouses in the Dark Blade, they all behaved like children who had low status whenever they were in front of Sendros. The Dark Blade had been going against the Manhwa family for countless years, and the three legendary figures had to work together in order to have enough power to battle the legendary mage of the Manhwa family, Cheyenne. Clearly, the two legendary-level factions were worlds apart. Hence, the three legendary figures definitely wouldn't let go of a chance to suck up to Sendros, just like Tedia. Tedia spun the ring around his finger, gritted his teeth angrily, and exclaimed, 2,400,000. 2,800,000. 3 million. Tedia involuntarily swayed unsteadily, feeling extremely indignant and exasperated. He had been devising his plan for a long time, and finally decided to continue bidding. Yet, the other two bidders refused to give in at all. Silence filled the air in the theater as no one dared to make a single sound. Although the voices of the VIP bidders upstairs were not loud, they echoed rather clearly in the hall. What a joke. Are these big shots out of their minds too? Do they even know what the potion is? How could they spend money so maniacally? Everyone was bewildered by the bids. It was truly an unprecedented occurrence. 3 million gold coins. The transaction price of the origin potion, which was concocted by Master Wilkinson and sold at 3 million gold coins, had already broken the previous sales record set by the Time Consignment Store. However, the current situation was absolutely absurd. In the blink of an eye, the price of the potion was actually raised to 3 million gold coins. Damn it, who is this guy named Felix? He's just a mage, yet his potion is worth 3 million gold coins? Could it be that they're in cahoots with each other and are raising the prices deliberately to make a joke out of us paupers? Sienna began to regret his decision not to show his intention to bid just now. Unfortunately, his hesitation caused him to miss the chance to curry favor with Mage Felix. As expected of Mage Felix. Look how much these potions are worth now. Both the origin potion and the nameless one are worth a total of 6 million gold coins. However, the few big figures upstairs clearly did not want to let the others off. 3,500,000. The price was increased by 500,000 immediately. However, the bidder was not one of those three. Arather, the castellan of Roland City, had also begun to find Mage Felix's name familiar. He could not remember where he had heard that name before, and then suddenly realized that Mage Felix was the one who taught his children magic. He actually had no idea that Mage Felix had the ability to concoct potions. However, the three bidders were obviously not in cahoots with each other. Hence, he decided to join in the bidding. Roland City was known as the granary of the breezy plains, and as the castellan, Arather was just as wealthy as the three other bidders. If the four of them were to be compared to each other, Tedia would be the weakest. The Dark Blade might be wealthy, but he was not even the rightful successor. 3,800,000. Tedia gritted his teeth angrily and placed his bid again, though he was sighing to himself and wondering if this was the highs and lows of life. Tedia had initially thought that he was the only person who realized the mystique of Mage Felix potions. He thought that he could use the potion to get into Sendro's good books in hopes of becoming his student. Even if Sendros didn't want to take him in as his student, he would at least obtain some knowledge and tips about magic, which was far more beneficial than taking the potion. Well, Sendros was a legendary necromancer. However, Tedia could tell from the progress of events that his wonderful dreams were about to be shattered. Staring at his competitors, the Prince of the Leaden Kingdom, the person in charge of the Glitter Gold Trade Union, and the richest castellan in the breezy plains, he realized that they were all not to be trifled with. As expected, someone else placed a higher bid after Tedia placed his. 4 million, another new bidder yelled. Damn it! What the hell is wrong with you people? Do you think you can intervene with everything just because you're rich? Tedia's teeth were almost broken because of how hard he was gritting them. He refused to believe that the potion concocted by Mage Felix would be incredible enough to be worth the price. 4,500,000. The wealthy Rob Bio increased the bid by 500,000 gold coins in a bid to scare off the other competitors. Although his boss Hoffman had given him instructions before, 4 million gold coins was not a small sum. If there were to be any issues, he might not be able to take on such a huge financial responsibility. After all, he ought to be cautious with spending other people's money. He did not expect the price of the potion surge so quickly. Hence, he had to plan carefully for their future development. In fact, his worry was not uncalled for, because he did not know a thing about pharmaceutics at all, and William did not even mention the name of the potion during the auction, let alone its properties. How could he deduce the value of the potion when he did not know its properties? Surely he couldn't acquire it blindly regardless of price just because his boss told him to. Compared to Rob Bio and Tedia, Arather did not have as many concerns. All he cared about was whether or not it was within his financial means. Of course, he wouldn't ignore the prerequisite of being able to take it 5 million gold coins. Arather followed suit and increased the bid by 500,000 gold coins at a time. He thought to himself, if you people still refuse to stop, I'll have to continue increasing the bids. I hope it will be worth it. The hall was so silent that the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Everyone was already gasping in shock, and they seemed to have been struck by a fossilizing spell. Some thought, damn it, I thought that William was out of his mind, but it turns out everyone is crazy. This hallucination feels so real. I can't sober up at all. Actually, the other guests downstairs were rather displeased with William's arrangements. At the end of the day, they were still authoritative figures who had high status in the breezy plains. They should not be too far off from the big shots of the breezy plains. However, there were only a few forces in the VIP rooms. There were plenty of VIP rooms, but only half of them were occupied. Most reckoned that it should be all right for them to occupy the VIP room that was of the lowest grade. However, it seemed that no one would have the cheek to sit in one even if William arranged it for them. It was a torture to just sit in the main hall and listen to the absurd bids. No one bothered to speculate regarding the genuineness of the potion anymore, and they were all hoping that the auction would be over as soon as possible so that they would be able to put an end to the misery. Someone had already called a bid of 5 million gold coins. That was not too far off from 6 million. The origin potion concocted by Wilkinson had already been auctioned for a sky-high price of 3 million gold coins. The nameless potion actually had a starting bid of 1 million gold coins. They reckoned that it would likely reach a price of 6 million gold coins. To everyone's despair, the bidding continued even after the price had exceeded 6 million gold coins. However, the bidders slowed down in placing their bids. Tedia from the Dark Blade was the first to give up, even though it was a good opportunity for him to curry favor with Sendros. However, because of how unpredictable Sendros was, he was not confident that he would receive benefits from Sendros that were equal to the price that he'd have paid. When the bidding price reached 7 million gold coins, Arather, the Castellan of Roland City, also decided to back out. Although he was labeled the youngest and richest Castellan of the Breezy Plains, 7 million gold coins was already his limit. Arather was not a gambler, and it was impossible for him to spend everything he had on a potion whose effects he was clueless about. Although the auction was still going on, Hilary, the Prince of the Leaden Kingdom, and Robbio, the person in charge of the Glitter Gold Trade Union in the Breezy Plains, were the only ones who were still bidding. At this point, Hilary's face had begun to grow sullen. Although he was extremely affluent, because he was the Prince of the Leaden Kingdom, he often splurged on eccentric items that he would add to his collection. Hilary rubbed his throbbing forehead with his finger as he continuously calculated the total amount of assets he had. He was not afraid of spending money at all, and even if he were to squander away all of the assets that he currently owned, he would be able to make an enviable amount of money again in a few more days. However, the problem was that an installment payment plan was not allowed by the time consignment store, and he would have to pay for the item that he won the bidding for in full. William had already announced the bid of 850,000 gold coins twice. Hilary took a deep breath, got a grip on his emotions, and nonchalantly said, 9,500,000 gold coins. Although Hilary had put all of his assets on the line, he still sounded nonchalant and relaxed, as if he still had plenty of money, and would have no problems with paying even if the price doubled. He was hoping that he could give the competition a great shock with his attitude. However, the problem was that Robbio had the Glitter Gold Trade Union to support him, and in this world, no one was richer than the Glitter Gold Trade Union. Well, it might be an exaggeration to say that the Glitter Gold Trade Union was the wealthiest in the world, but the Glitter Gold Trade Union could do more than just allocating money. Anyway, all he had to do was hand the money to William once the auction was over. No one needed to know whom the money belonged to. 10 million gold coins. Robbio exclaimed, placing a highly anticipated bid. Ever since the price passed the benchmark of 6 million gold coins, it continued to surge higher and higher. Ever since then, everyone began to think that it was possible for the price to exceed 10 million gold coins. Now, it finally happened. It was unlikely that anyone would be able to break that record again in the future. The potion concocted by an amateur pharmacist who was neither famous nor authoritative actually had got an offer of 10 million gold coins. Was everyone in Amro crazy? Hilary shook his head and returned to his seat dejectedly. He thought to himself, I must be an idiot. Why did I even bother competing with the Glitter Gold Trade Union in wealth? Actually, he had always been feeling lucky and fortunate. If Robbio's boss, Hoffman, was the one who competed for the Glitter Gold Trade Union instead, there would be no need for the auction to continue any longer. Their money was still deposited in the Glitter Gold Trade Union, and if they were to continue vying with them, God knew if the latter wouldn't threaten them with their own money. William slammed the gravel down while everyone else looked on. The auction could be considered the best one that he had ever had in his life. The 10 million gold coin transaction could very likely become a record that no one would be able to break in the future. Lin Li closed his mouth after opening it for a long time. He turned to look at Wilkinson and the rest, whose gazes were full of awe, feeling extremely amused. Actually, he had never expected the potion that he had concocted casually during an experiment would sell for 10 million gold coins. However, Lin Li did not feel any guilt at all, despite finding it to be rather strange. He was the concoctor, hence, he was the only one who knew that the effects of that potion were definitely worth 10 million gold coins. Lin Li was definitely not blowing his own trumpet, because the potion was not concocted based on a preconceived formula, but rather a formula that he suddenly thought of when he was reading the Book of Eternity. He found a link between magic and pharmaceutics, and had also gotten a better understanding of them. After finding a few similarities between the two, he vaguely felt that he had touched the realm of a divine smith. In a moment of excitement, he decided to concoct the myth potion. Although Lin Li had never let anyone take the myth potion before, the effects of the potion could be discerned after the concoction was complete. Once a mage drank the myth potion, he would experience changes and distortion to his mental strength that would stimulate the growth of his mana. The effects would last a long, long time, perhaps 1 or 2 years. The long duration would cause a rapid growth in mana that would allow a mage to reach the realm of an archmage. It seemed that the effects of the myth potion were similar to those of the rune potion that Lin Li had concocted before. The latter would help mages who were stuck in a bottleneck to break through and reach the realm of an archmage. However, the arcane magic, arcane, and rune potions were all used for breaking through to the next realm. The principle behind it was to overdraw the potential of the person to achieve the effect of breaking through. The side effects were clear as well: one's progress would be halted and remain stagnant forever. It was different for the myth potion. Just like the Evil Eye's magical crystal, its effects were to stimulate the growth of one's mental strength to allow the user to break through. It could be said that the purpose of the myth potion was to increase the user's potential greatly. The myth potion was concocted by Lin Li alone. There had never been such a potion before, not even in the endless world he'd been in before he came to Amril. Once the rumor spread, it would definitely cause a huge uproar in the pharmaceutical world of Amril. Although Lin Li, the master of the Tower of Dusk, had such a powerful potion, he did not allow his mages to use it. It was not because he couldn't bear to, however. Although the potion was sold for 10 million gold coins, Lin Li could afford the cost of it. The main problem was that Lin Li had never concocted this potion before, and hence was not certain about its effects. For now, he did not know how serious the side effects could be. However, it did not matter whether or not he knew of the side effects, because someone had already bought the experimental potion for 10 million gold coins and given him the glory. If there were no severe issues or terrible side effects after consumption, Lin Li would consider providing the mages at the Tower of Dusk with a limited supply of the potion. However, Lin Li found it a hassle to have to find and mix the ingredients required by the formula of the myth potion. The most important ones were Heart of Winter and Sunny Rose, which could not be found in the breezy plains. It was not just in the breezy plains. If Lin Li remembered correctly, those 2 ingredients could only be found in the Felon Kingdom. Just like Black Lotus, they only thrived in extreme conditions. He had no choice but to wait for the business trip to Seven Leaf Grass to end, or find the time to head straight to the Tree of Emerald to take a look. Just as Lin Li was pondering the matter, he heard the sounds of someone knocking on the door. "President Felix, I'm Rob Bio from the Glittergold Trade Union. I would like to see you." "Are you free now?" asked Rob Bio, who was standing politely by the door. He had spent 10 million gold coins on a potion whose name he did not even know. He only found out that Mage Felix from the Tower of Dusk was present at the auction after speaking to William to ask about the properties of the potion. "Oh, Mr. Rob Bio, please come in," said Lin Li, who knew that Rob Bio was the person in charge of the Glittergold Trade Union in the breezy plains. The Tower of Dusk and Glittergold Trade Union had always been cooperating, but they'd never met each other, because Gavin was the one in charge of managing the business. "President Felix, I'm really sorry, but I only just found out from Master William that you were present at the auction too. I finally got the chance to rush here and visit you," Rob Bio said courteously. Lin Li gestured for Rob Bio to take a seat before asking about Robio's purpose. "President Felix, here's the thing. I have something to consult you about." Rob Bio decided to get to the main topic after all the polite talk. Although he was just following orders from Hoffman, Rob Bio was still a businessman at the end of the day. The most prominent characteristic of businessmen was that they would find a reason for every penny spent. Besides, it was not just a penny, but 10 million gold coins. If they were to be withdrawn from the vault of the Glitter Gold Trade Union, they would be enough to form a pile. Rob Bio felt the need to understand what he had spent his money on. Otherwise, he would never get to sleep peacefully again. I call this potion Myth Potion. It will greatly increase the mental strength of a mage after he consumes it. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. Rob Bio was also a mage, but his limited potential meant that he couldn't have many accomplishments in terms of magic. After hearing Lin Li's introduction about the benefits of the Myth Potion, Robio's eyes widened and lit up. As a mage with limited potential, nobody was clearer about what increasing mental strength meant than him. However, this is my first time making this potion, so I cannot guarantee anything. If anyone suffered from any repercussions after drinking this potion, you need to find me at the Tower of Dusk immediately. Maybe you can still be rescued, Lin Li reminded kind-heartedly. But, hearing this, however, Rob Bio was stunned. 10 million gold coins. He didn't know if Master Hoffman would pay for this potion. However, he had followed Master Hoffman's order to buy whatever potion Lin Li had made at all costs. Yet, since the potion's effect wasn't guaranteed, he couldn't repay the 10 million gold coins even if he sold himself. Rob Bio didn't have the mood to sit still anymore. He said goodbye to Lin Li and left the room anxiously. William was rather pleased with the new record-breaking auction. As for the effect of the potion, that wasn't something he needed to worry about. He wondered if the treasure from the Elven Kingdom could break another record. He hadn't been in such a good mood for a while. First, it was an origin potion which allowed people to learn 5 magic powers that broke the record of the time consignment store for many years. A mysterious man had bought it at the whopping 3 million gold coins. Everyone thought that this record wouldn't be broken for many years. However, much to everyone's surprise, the very next item auctioned was a nameless potion concocted by an unknown mage. This mage didn't even specify the effect of the potion clearly, yet many rich and powerful factions competed during the bidding. This auction today would be destined to be unforgettable for everyone who attended. The new record of 3 million gold coins was broken after just 15 minutes. Afterwards, every bid surpassed the record a little. Everyone on the first floor turned from surprised to shocked, and finally totally numb. A record of 10 million gold coins was not just a record for the time consignment store or Anril, but rather a first in history. However, the theme of this auction wasn't just selling the Tower of Dusk's wares. The real thing hadn't even come out yet. Everyone suspected if William still had the confidence to take out the so-called mysterious treasure after the record-breaking auction of 10 million gold coins. Actually, William was rather nervous during the auction just now. If that myth potion hadn't been auctioned off just now, William's reputation would have certainly been damaged. However, William wasn't a fool to auction such a strange item without introduction for no reason. He had his own intentions behind doing so. The news of high-level pharmacists in the Tower of Dusk had spread throughout the breezy plains. Every faction swarmed towards this newly established guild of magic like sharks that smelled blood. Everyone had the same intention, to poach those pharmacists for their own faction from a small influence like the Tower of Dusk. However, William had noticed something else. The several rich and powerful families didn't do anything amidst this fierce competition for pharmacists. This was truly unbelievable, since these rich and powerful families usually couldn't resist the temptation of pharmacists, much less high-level pharmacists. What those rich and powerful families were worried about was the mysterious pharmaceutics organization behind the Tower of Dusk and the young president of the Guild of Magic. William had done detailed research on this President Felix, but he got more confused the more he researched. He seemed to have found out a lot. That Felix came from the Gerosis Guild of Magic, what he did in Alana, how he got the opportunity to establish the Guild of Magic in the Breezy Plains, etc. However, William still couldn't figure out who he exactly was in the end. From the information that he had collected, William could see that this President Felix was somewhat associated with those rich and powerful families. However, he had no chance of asking directly exactly what their relationship was. If they were close, why didn't the rich and powerful families speak up for the Tower of Dusk when the other factions attempted to raid the pharmacists? Even the Manhwa family, who had participated in the destruction of the Sire bandits, didn't do anything. William actually wanted to use this ridiculous auction as an opportunity to know how important Mage Felix was to those rich and powerful families. Of course, he wouldn't risk his long-accumulated reputation for something so trivial. Though William didn't know the actual effect of that potion, he could see with his experience as a master appraiser that the potion was extraordinary. Moreover, even if nobody bid for it, he could always say, "Let us welcome Mage Felix to introduce the effect of his potion." Although he realized the extraordinariness of the potion, William was still very surprised that it could fetch a price of 10 million gold coins. However, unlike the shock from the audience, William had prepared to break the record with that mysterious treasure. Even with the new record of 10 million gold coins, William was still confident that his last item would fetch an even higher price. After everyone had calmed down, William stood emotionless at the center of the stage as if the 10 million gold coin deal had nothing to do with him. Everyone in the audience admired William greatly for that. No wonder William was the most esteemed master in the breezy plains. He hadn't depended on luck to get to where he was today, given his way of managing the time consignment store. While people admired William, they were more curious about the main course of this auction, the mysterious treasure from the Elven Kingdom, even though they didn't think anything could possibly break the record of 10 million gold coins. I am extremely honored that such a record could be achieved during this auction. However, let us not forget the theme of today's auction. Yes, the mysterious treasure from the Elven Kingdom. I am sure it will end this auction on a perfect note. Unlike during the auction of the potion just now, William finally behaved like an auctioneer now. A rather heavy gray metal box was lowered onto the display stage. Its exterior was adorned with rose gold magewef, and light waves traveled through them. Just looking at this box, many people were curious what was inside. Though they didn't know what the magewef was for, they knew that the use of magewef meant that the item inside was definitely impressive. Sitting in the guest room, Lin Li's eyes narrowed slightly upon seeing the so-called mysterious treasure from the Elven Kingdom being loaded onto the stage. While other people didn't know, how could a guru of inscription and blacksmith guru like him not understand what it meant? The metal from which the box was made was frost gray thorium that was extremely insulating to magical elements. Though frost gray thorium was rare, it didn't have many uses. Most of the time, it was used to insulate magical elements, stop the corrosion of items by magical elements, or prevent the dispersion of certain items' magical elements. As for the sealing magewef on the box, it was also used to insulate magical elements, and was often used interchangeably with frost gray thorium. Clearly, the use of both frost gray thorium and sealing magewef were for preventing the dispersion of magical elements of something in the box. Yet the problem was that any of these two could serve the purpose of insulating magical elements. Now that both were used together, Lin Li could still feel slight waves of magical elements from the box. How powerful did this magical object have to be that even this box couldn't totally seal off its magical wave? This is the next item we will be auctioning, a treasure that's been passed down to generations of elves for countless years. As for its origins, sorry, I can't reveal the owner's name due to his requirements. I seek your understanding. Now, let us appreciate this treasure from the Elven Kingdom. William walked towards the box and opened it on all four sides. After the box was opened, everyone couldn't help but gasp. It wasn't because of some treasure inside the box, but rather the fact that the box was a dozen centimeters thick. Rather than saying that it was a box, it was more accurate to say it was a piece of metal with a hole dug inside. No wonder people struggled to carry it up the stage. Lin Li secretly shook his head. The density of frost gray thorium was very high, and ordinary thickness was enough to insulate magical elements. However, this box was so much thicker. No wonder warriors carried it up, a normal person wouldn't even be able to move it an inch. Everyone was shocked at this outrageous box. However, they were dumbfounded again upon seeing the so-called treasure in the box. They even thought William was joking with them to put it up for auction. When the box was open and the so-called treasure from the Elven Kingdom was revealed, everyone sighed. No doubt it was from the Elven Kingdom. Was it for magic or an ingredient waiting to be processed? Or maybe it was a herb from the Elven Kingdom? What laid in the box was a branch. Although that branch radiated a strong magical wave, it was still just a branch. How could it be considered a treasure? What kind of treasure is this? Is it used to make magic staffs? But judging from its length and thickness, it doesn't seem to be enough for one. In people's impression, a treasure should at least be similar to the Twilight Dragon armor even if it wasn't comparable to the 3 million gold coins worth of origin potion. Looking at the recording-breaking nameless potion that was auctioned off at 10 million gold coins, and this branch here, what was William trying to do? Though Glitter Gold Trade Union had bought the nameless potion concocted by some unknown mage at 10 million gold coins, nobody believed that the potion was really worth that much. Whom were they kidding? 10 million gold coins were enough to build a faction with considerable strength. What kind of potion would be worth so much? Indeed. What's so special about this branch? Even if it comes from the Elven Kingdom, it's too much to say it was passed down across countless generations. There are so many plants in the Emerald Forest that possess mana. Who knows which tree he has gotten the branch from? If it's a branch, then maybe he wasn't lying that it's been through countless years. Who knows if there's a tree that lived for this long? Everyone in the audience started discussing this branch, but all they were expressing was their skepticism. What Elven Kingdom, what countless decades, what treasure? Wasn't it just a magical element-containing branch? Any kind of magic staff-making material was like that, and this branch wasn't even enough to make a single magic staff. However, some people among the crowd looked contemplative upon seeing that branch, totally unaffected by the noises the people around them were making. A person and another on his left mocked William with much enthusiasm, but they saw Sard, the third brother of the Wolf Brothers Association, looking quite uneasy. They curiously asked him, "President Sard, what do you see in this item? Do you know its origin?" "Humph." Sard sneered with contempt. He didn't even look at the two, and sounded rather pleased with himself as he replied, "Captain Cole, have you not heard about this person called Legolas before? 1 inch this." "You must be kidding, President Sard. How can I not know Legolas? He's the most famous elven legendary realm powerhouse." Cole seemed a little displeased, but he didn't show it on his face, and still laughed. "Do you mean that branch on stage is associated with Legolas?" In the Breezy Plains, Legolas was so famous that he even exceeded Duke Hedrick in fame. This wasn't just because he was an elf who possessed an appearance that made even women jealous. More importantly, he was a powerful legendary mage. Though a legendary mage and a legendary sword sage were both legendary powerhouses, a legendary mage was stronger, and not just by a bit. To most people, a legendary sword sage was very powerful, but a legendary mage could be considered a god. This showed the difference between the two legendary powerhouses. Hedrick's story was indeed moving, but almost 1,000 years had passed since. When people heard about his legends, they no longer felt touched by his stories as before. However, Legolas was different. Although people all knew about the Elven Kingdom, fewer and fewer people actually entered it. A mysterious powerhouse of a mysterious kingdom. Wasn't that all the more appealing? Moreover, Legolas was active in history only about a few hundred years ago, so people had not forgotten about him. "Hey, do you need my reminder? This branch is no ordinary branch." Sard, whose chin hung high, confidently said, "You think that William is an old fool? Maybe for you, the magical energy in this branch isn't too powerful. But let me tell you, you are dead wrong if you think so, because the magical energy in this branch is the purest form of elemental power." Purest, do you understand? Sard wasn't a mage, but as an excellent bandit, he was equipped with detection skills required for dealing with traps and other things. As such, he was even more sensitive to magical energy than many ordinary mages. Compared to the dabbler mage beside him, Sard could more accurately sense the magical energy of the branch. Low-frequency waves and energy too pure could be hardly detected by people. Thus, most people found the branch on the stage very ordinary, while in fact, the purest magical energy was the most powerful. Even the lightest such energy could lead to a mana storm. This? What do you mean? Cole was puzzled. How was this branch related to legendary mage Legolas? After the end of the Dark Age, the elves had been living in the Emerald Forest to recover. From the founding of the Elven Kingdom till now, elves who truly appeared in the human kingdoms were less than 10. The most powerful of them all was legendary mage Legolas. I don't believe that there's anyone who has the ability to sneak into the Elven Kingdom and smuggle out this treasure. So, the only ones who could have brought this treasure out were the elves themselves. Cole listened to Sard's speech attentively. People around them also stopped what they were doing and listened to the conversation, nodding their heads in agreement. Although the Elven Kingdom was mysterious, people knew very well that it was also powerful. It was rumored that a legendary powerhouse didn't come back alive after entering the Emerald Forest. It was right to say that every elf was a warrior. With their longevity and talent derived from their high elf's blood, heaven knew how many legendary realm, or even sanctuary realm, powerhouses they had. Perhaps only Juresco could steal something so important from the Elven Kingdom. So I think that Legolas had brought this branch out of the Emerald Forest then, and always carried it with him. No wonder Sard was an excellent assassin. Before assassins went on any missions, they would always design a well-thought-out plan in detail. After thoroughly considering all kinds of scenarios to prevent accidents, they would then finally arrive at a conclusion. Everyone nodded. With regard to why this treasure would land in this auction, there were just too many possibilities. Maybe it was lost, or maybe Legolas had already been killed by somebody. President Sard, what you've said makes sense, but how can you be so sure that this branch came from the elves? Cole asked all of a sudden. Everyone turned and stared at him like a fool. Whom are you kidding? How can you doubt Master William's abilities so easily? Look at the appearance, feel that purest magical energy. If you can't judge by yourself, listen to the master appraiser, someone mocked. After hearing Sard's analysis, some people immediately changed their attitude from doubting to firmly supporting William. Out of almost 2,000 people in the seats, Sard wasn't the only one who thought of Legolas. After all, Legolas was too well known as a legendary mage. Some people even found some so-called evidence from poetry that proved Legolas once held on to a treasure in the shape of a branch. What a joke! Those people dare to say anything. Upon listening to the report of his subordinates, Tedious sneered at the people downstairs with contempt. He had originally wanted to see if anyone could recognize this branch, yet he couldn't imagine these people would bring Legolas into this. Although the Dark Blade hadn't been established when Legolas had got famous, there was still the Darkness Shrine, which had a history as long as the Brilliance Shrines. In order to learn necromagic spells, Tedia had visited the Darkness Shrine several times, and stayed there for quite a while. This kind of information about hearsay and events was open for everyone to read in the Darkness Shrine. Thus, Tedia was confident that he knew Legolas' life story more accurately and with greater detail than anyone else. If it had been about anyone else, maybe Tedia would have briefly contemplated it. However, it was absolutely impossible that an elven legendary mage named Legolas had owned the branch. There was indeed some aura of the elves on this branch, and the magical energy it contained could be considered rare and precious, but this treasure would be useless in the hands of Legolas. When William opened the box himself, Wilkinson suddenly felt a pure stream of elemental power overwhelming the entire theater. He originally was not interested in this last item, but this branch got all his attention. Wilkinson was very familiar with the aura of this last item. However, he was unsure what this branch really was. Just then, the discussion downstairs got louder. Wilkinson could vaguely hear someone mentioning the elven legendary mage Legolas. He thought he had heard it wrongly. However, after listening carefully, he could make out what they were talking about from the bits and pieces he could hear. Hearing the buzzing sounds of discussion, Wilkinson found it rather funny. It seemed like these locals of the breezy plains were worse than an outsider like him. Although Wilkinson had always been at the Pharmacist Guild in Alana until he had finally seen the outside world after being sent to the Tower of Dusk for training, it was important to note that the kind of people the Pharmacist Guild interacted with were all legendary powerhouses like Legolas, whom people looked up to. Wilkinson had never met Legolas. Yet, as the student of the Pharmacist Guild's president, Balba, he frequently heard conversations between his mentor and other legendary powerhouses. Hence, he naturally had knowledge of many random things. One of them was regarding the legendary elf mage. Legolas first entered the human world many centuries ago. He was a diplomat for the newly established Elven Kingdom who wanted to negotiate matters regarding an armistice as well as the issue of hostages. All the kingdoms suffered significantly in that prolonged war. Hence, when they heard that Legolas from the Elven Kingdom was there for negotiation, they wanted to establish their dominance. How could an elf be any threat to them without his forest? A bandit organization made up of elites planned to ambush the elven delegation by hiding along the path they would take. The initial plan was to take those arrogant elves hostage, and bring them to the king even if they did not manage to eliminate them. Although the different kingdoms had suffered great losses in the Emerald Forest, they were not interested in the elves' plans to discuss foreign affairs. To them, since they could not invade the Emerald Forest, they were going to ensure that the elves did not leave their sanctuary. The bandit organization was formed by people from different occupations of above level 15. They did not belittle the abilities of the elves. However, when fire that dyed the night sky red erupted in the bandits' chosen place of ambush, an elf with a silver-colored ear walked out of the blazing flames slowly. There were no shrieks to be heard, only the cracking sound of fire that erased the team of bandits. It was then that all the kingdoms realized that the Elven Kingdom had only sent one diplomat on the quest, Legolas, an elf mage. When the friendly Legolas politely greeted and graciously informed the council that he had helped the humans to get rid of a bandit organization, the King of Felon nearly spat blood. The King of Felon arranged for Legolas to tour the Alana Guild of Magic, the Pharmacist Guild, and other notable places during his visit. Apart from showcasing the ability of a human kingdom, it was part of a plan to gauge Legolas's ability as well as the strength of the Elven Kingdom. The couple of catastrophes that brought the species near extinction had caused them to be more vigilant and wary. Legolas gravitated between exaggerating the ability of the Elven Kingdom and staying silent. That confused everyone. Yet, he did not conceal anything about his powers when he conversed with the legendary mages at Alana Guild of Magic. Only then did the King of Felon understand the intentions of Elven Kingdom in sending Legolas for the negotiation. Legolas was not only a freak amongst the elves, but also a freak in the magic industry. After getting the protection from Manhwa, the goddess of forest, the love the elf species showed for nature surpassed that of anyone else. However, Legolas that came from the Elven Kingdom was not only a powerful legendary mage, but also a legendary mage that specialized in fire magic. Anyone who had heard of this news would find it hard to gasp. It was a miracle for Legolas not to burn the Emerald Forest when he progressed from a mage to a legendary mage. It was no wonder that their kingdom would send Legolas here to kill time. In fact, it was not rare for elves to study fire magic. Elves had natural talent for magic, and mages were naturally knowledge seekers. Regardless of whether one was a human or an elf, he would want to learn everything related to the 7 main elements. It was even more so for legendary mages. In order to study the origin of the laws, they had to thoroughly understand the combat energy used by warriors as well as the spiritual force and force of curse used by the necromancers. To the legendary mages, all the forces in the world could be related to the 7 major elements. The understanding of the source of any of the forces would mean a better understanding of the fundamental laws. Hence, any legendary mage would definitely have a sea of knowledge. The vastness of their mind was not something anybody could imagine. Legolas was the only legendary mage who could specialize in a magic attribute 1,300 years after the Dark Age. In fact, mages would usually focus on a particular set of magic spells even when they reached the Archmage realm. However, after they got into the legendary realm, they would naturally grasp the magic spells from other attributes. The forces had similar essence. Spells which the legendary mage had not handled before would become familiar to them as if they had studied them for a decade. The ultimate goal of magic was the essence of the different forces. The deciding factor was whether legendary mages could have the ability to understand and use the fundamental rules of magic without a recitation. Normally, legendary mages were free to specialize in anything. Instead of specializing in any magical attribute, they might first be enlightened by the elemental laws that would then be demonstrated in their magical domain. For example, most legendary mages would first use the laws of ice to create their magical domain. However, that wouldn't be their ultimate goal. They would strive to comprehend more elemental rules and push their magical domain to the extreme. Yet, Legolas was different. Not only could he eliminate the entire team of human elites with just a blow of fire, he was also able to demonstrate his competence in his interaction with human legendary mages. Legolas created an illusion that he had already reached the peak of the legendary realm, and shocked everyone with an undwindling set of fire element and other type of magic spells. No one had seen such use of magic. Legolas was able to display the 7 major laws with fire element as the basis. Legolas was as competent as any legendary mage in the foundation of elemental laws. No one knew how and why Legolas did it. They only knew that in one of his records, there was a very long prefix in front of his name that read, Legendary Mage, Specialist of Fire Magic. It had been said that there was a legendary mage that asked Legolas that question during their interaction, and Legolas did not give a very clear reply. He gave a totally unrelated explanation, saying he'd already lived for more than 470 years. By living for more than 470 years, it meant that Legolas had lived through the war at the end of Dark Age and the catastrophe that nearly eliminated all of the elves. No matter the reason, it was clear that although Legolas was a legendary mage, he always used fire element to cast all of his spells, just like a magical beast with a fire attribute. Hence, if that tree branch on the stage could emit such a strong and pure force of fire element, it was very likely for it to be an important treasure that Legolas carried with him. In fact, the tree branch with tender leaves had been emitting a refreshing magic aura ever since William opened that exaggerated box. The peaceful atmosphere created made people neglect the presence of the strong and pure force. They thought that the tree branch was too ordinary to be auctioned. If not, there might not even be audience after William opened the box. Although it could be certain that the tree branch was not a treasure used by Legolas, the refreshing scent emitted by the object really made it seem like a treasure from the age of the High Elves. Wilkinson and the other pharmacists looked at the unsightly tree branch on the stage. Although they weren't sure of its origin, they knew that the aura it emitted was not least bit artificial. The powerful aura was especially good to people like Wilkinson, who were soon to become masters in pharmacy. Pharmacists had always been working with many types of herbs. While they attempted to formulate different types of potions with those herbs, their pursuit was never wealth. To the masters of pharmacy, as well as a high-ranking pharmacist like Wilkinson, creating potions would not only help them practice their skills and raise their standards, but also enable them to be more knowledgeable in the field of pharmacy. Their end goal was similar to that of mages and sword sages. Of course, there were still the other pharmacists who were of a lower level, and had lost all hope of improving. For them, they'd rather invest their time in creating low-grade potions to make their living. They were just like any other less able people in the other occupations. There were mages who joined adventurer teams, warriors who became explorers, and the others who chose to work as soldiers or thieves. Wilkinson and the others, however, were not pharmacists without ambitions. Their goal ever since they received training from Lin Li at the Tower of Dusk was to become masters in pharmacy. The origin potion Wilkinson put on auction alone was a master-level potion. Yet, being a master of pharmacy did not mean that one's knowledge had reached the maximum. Although pharmaceutics masters stood at the top of the pyramid that was the profession of pharmacist in Amril now, one must not forget the existence of pharmaceutics guru and even divine smiths, who were above the pharmaceutics masters. Actually, a pharmaceutics master was just a beginner in pharmaceutics, as that was when one had the right to start truly researching. Though there was a big difference in social status from a disciple to a high-level pharmacist, it was still only a stage of foundation building. Precisely because of this reason, pharmaceutics masters usually owned a private farm. They didn't grow crops or vegetables, but rather all kinds of rare herbs. For example, President Balba of the Pharmacist Guild, Chief Pharmaceutics Master Burnside, and some other pharmaceutics masters all had their personal farms which grew precious herbs for their research. Wilkinson could be considered half a pharmaceutics master now. He absolutely had the right to own his own herb farm like his teacher Balba. It was also necessary for him to own a personal herb farm as a pharmaceutics master, and this was why Wilkinson and his companions were so interested in the branch on stage. Although they didn't know what the branch was, or what it was fundamentally used for, they already had an idea what to do with it. Merely judging from the natural fragrance of the branch, Wilkinson could see that this treasure would be hugely beneficial to the growth of his herbs just by putting into his future farm. Especially for those herbs that were hard to grow, such fragrance filled with vitality would certainly largely increase the chances of these herbs' survival, and might even increase the effects of potions made from them. Just this alone was enough to entice a pharmacist, not to mention that if the branch possessed immense vitality, maybe it possessed some powerful effects. While the discussion downstairs continued, Wilkinson unwillingly turned his eyes away from the branch, and respectfully asked Lin Li, "Master, what is this branch exactly? I have never heard anything about it before, but just from its fragrance, could it really be an elven treasure like William said?" Wilkinson started by asking Lin Li what the branch was, and not if he knew what the branch was, because Lin Li had left an impression of being very knowledgeable in Wilkinson's mind after this period of interaction. Not just in the field of pharmaceutics, either. Wilkinson thought that this young mage about the same age as he knew about everything. Master Felix could answer any question that Wilkinson could think of, from any domain and any aspect. Sometimes, Wilkinson even wondered if there was anything in this world that Master Felix didn't know. Perhaps the feeling of childbirth was the only thing Master Felix didn't know. Of course, if Wilkinson had really asked, Lin Li would immediately tell him that the pain of childbirth was about level 12, the threshold of human pain tolerance, etc. However, Lin Li didn't answer Wilkinson immediately this time. He just stared at the branch and its young leaves. Pure and powerful magical elements radiated from the branch, and every young leaf seemed to contain vitality. He could even smell the slight tinge of mud. This smell was so familiar Lin Li felt he had gone back to the endless world. Indeed, this was another piece of debris of the stars, rebirth, which contained the rules of earth and nature. Legends said that when the world was first formed, one of the two saplings which sprouted first was made into the stars of fury bolt by the gods, and it contained the purest vitality in the world. The other sapling grew into an enormous tree, the tree of eternity, which the high elves identified as their parent. When talking about magic that applied the 7 elemental rules, people usually thought of heftiness when mentioning earth magic. They would then think of the attack techniques in the form of boulders. Very few people would think of the earth beneath their feet, which bred all lives in the world. In traditional magic classifications, earth magic was more often characterized by earth-moving skill, wall-building skill, earth-breaking skill, etc. Out of all types of earth magic, the usage of vitality was known as nature magic, and the elves were the true masters of this type of magic. This piece of debris of the stars known as rebirth contained the complete rules of earth element and nature, which bred all lives. If Lin Li were to choose only one from the 7 pieces of debris of the stars, other than origin, which contained the power of chaos, he would definitely choose rebirth. Though every piece of debris of the stars except for origin was similar in strength, their different properties meant that they would hold different places in Lin Li's heart. Speaking of healing, most people would think of light and water out of the 7 elements. However, the healing abilities of magic from these 2 elements were actually very limited. Light possessed strong dispelling properties. The so-called healing was actually a dispelling spell, which would dispel the effects of harmful magic and some illnesses. Meanwhile, water's healing ability was more limited than light's as it could only speed up the healing of wounds, or rather, stop bleeding by freezing the wound. People commonly knew about the healing effects of light and water magic because these two kinds of low-level healing magic were well liked by explorers, especially water healing magic. Hence, people from other professions and even some low or medium-level mages wouldn't associate healing with the hefty earth magic. Only people who had touched the essence of earth magic would know that the healing ability of earth magic was incomparably superior to that of light or water magic. Rebirth, which possessed the rules of earth and nature, represented the purest form of life and vitality. Holding on to rebirth was equivalent to having an undying body. No matter how serious one's injury was, he would recover under rebirth's light. Even people suffering from incurable diseases could recover after bathing in the light of rebirth. The powerful healing ability didn't mean that rebirth didn't possess any offensive properties. For opponents, the life control rebirth was undoubtedly a deadly weapon. A single strike from rebirth could immediately take vitality away from any ferocious legendary beast. Even the high elves known for their longevity would age rapidly under the power of rebirth. Rebirth not only possessed the ability of giving, but also forceful exploitation. How could Lin Li let anyone else get this powerful life maneuvering ability? The base price of this elven treasure is 1 million gold coins. The auction begins now. William again didn't give much of an introduction. After all, the more he said, the more mistakes he would make under the circumstances. It was better to let the guests estimate the value of this item themselves. Just like the myth potion auctioned earlier, William had wanted to set the base price for this branch higher. However, since the myth potion had been auctioned at a whopping 10 million gold coins, it was enough to show the rich and powerful family's interest in President Felix's potion. William didn't want to displease this young mage because of such a trivial matter. 5 million gold coins. Immediately after William announced the start of this auction, a loud and clear voice rang in the rather noisy hall. Everyone couldn't react at the moment, but the hall was completely silenced after 2 to 3 seconds. However, the crowd erupted into chatter just seconds after the silence. Everyone had the same thoughts in their mind. This auction was too damn fake. How could the much-reputed William do something like that? With William's reputation and esteem accumulated from managing the time consignment store for so many years, did he even need to do such lowly things to increase his influence? It couldn't be helped that people thought this way. After all, the things that happened during this auction were too ridiculous to be true. It was still acceptable that the origin potion had fetched a price of 3 million gold coins, since everyone knew that a potion that could allow a mage to learn 5 magic powers would be worth this price. However, what about the others? Who could imagine that a potion whose name and effects nobody knew could fetch a sky-high price of 10 million gold coins? Now, William had played the same trick for a branch of unknown origin and properties. Without any introduction, he had set the base price at 1 million gold coins. Even the Twilight Dragon armor of Duke Hedrick, which could increase a person's power by 1 level, was sold at 500,000 gold coins. What about this branch? Even if it contained pure magical energy, even if it had once belonged to the elven legendary mage Legolas, and even if a legendary mage was more powerful than a legendary realm sword sage, it was probably only worth 1 million gold coins. How daring did William have to be to start the auction at 1 million gold coins? How much did William want it to be sold at? Another 10 million gold coins? The most fake thing about it was that somebody answered and directly raised the price to 5 million gold coins. Could this capper have some professional integrity? Did he think the audience were all fools? How arrogant to start with 5 million gold coins. Let's see how William will deal with him if nobody else places a bid. Unlike the people downstairs, Wilkinson and his companions had given up upon knowing that Master Felix was determined to get the branch. It was clear as he had bid at such a high price. In fact, if even they could think of putting this branch in their herb farms, how would Master Felix not know given his expertise in pharmaceutics? Though Wilkinson didn't get Master Felix's reply for the earlier question, this bid of 5 million gold coins had proved the problem sufficiently. Given their understanding of Master Felix's personality, he wasn't someone who would waste even a bronze coin on useless things. Now that he had bid, it only meant that this branch was worth more than 5 million gold coins, no matter what its origin was. In other words, they perceived Master Felix as someone who wouldn't do a losing business. However, Wilkinson and his companions wouldn't be sad if this branch landed in Master Felix's hands. After all, they could be considered students of Master Felix, although Master Felix wasn't their real teacher. This relationship was much closer to friends or companions, so they could certainly get some benefits from this. Meanwhile, in the other guest room, Tedia of the Dark Blade shut his mouth with resentment. His bid was stopped by the sky-high 5 million gold coins, just as he had wanted to respond. As a necromancer, Tedia resented the vitality from this branch. The so-called natural fragrance made him feel like vomiting. However, the branch was still very useful for him. Necromancers faced dead creatures on a daily basis, so it was inevitable that death aura would intrude their bodies. Thus, most necromancers looked very peculiar. To say it nicely, they looked extremely thin. To say it not so nicely, they looked like a skeleton wrapped in a layer of skin, and definitely scarier than real skeletons. Image was only secondary since this world admired the strong and powerful, and didn't care about appearance much. After all, who dared to say that Sendros looked ugly? The real problem was, the accumulated corrosion by death aura day and night was detrimental to health. This wouldn't be a problem if one reached legendary realm. However, if one wasn't able to become a legendary necromancer like Sendros, then he'd have to make a choice. One of the choices was to wait for death, which nobody would choose. The other was to turn himself into an undead creature, such as a lich, like Ujfalusi. This transformation, however, had a very low success rate. If Tedia possessed this treasure filled with vitality, he could use it to dispel the death aura in his body frequently. This would largely increase his lifespan. Moreover, such a powerful treasure rich in vitality wasn't only useful for extending lifespan of a necromancer. Although life and death were conflicting kinds of energy, the understanding of such vitality would help with the understanding of necromagic. However well Tedia thought it through, the reality gave him a slap in the face again. His hopes were killed off completely when Lin Li raised the bid directly to 5 million gold coins. The Dark Blade had the ability to take out 5 million gold coins. However, he didn't have so much money to bid for it himself. After all, he couldn't make decisions for the Dark Blade now. The one who had given up on the bid because of Lin Li wasn't just Tedia. Prince Hilary of the Leaden Kingdom had originally been interested in this branch. Despite not knowing its use, 1 million gold coins were nothing to him. However, just as he wanted to bid, he was stunned by Lin Li's bid of 5 million gold coins. He's still too young. Hilary sighed and shook his head. His good friend Unlos admired this mage Felix very much. However, that was just for his talent in pharmaceutics. In Hilary's eyes, this young mage was still too young and impulsive. To raise the bidding price from 1 million gold coins to 5 million was an extremely unwise move. Even if Lin Li had wanted the branch urgently, he shouldn't have been so quick to raise the price by so much. This was a taboo during auctions. Not only did it tell others about your strong desire to possess this object, it might also spark the competitiveness in some people and push the final transaction price to an uncontrollable high. This young mage, pharmacist, and president of the Guild of Magic might have spent all his efforts on learning magic and pharmaceutics such that he wasn't equipped with basic common knowledge. A young genius couldn't be a genius in everything. Some things still needed accumulation of time, and not just knowledge from books. This was not only Hilary's opinion. Others who knew Lin Li, including Rob Bio who had bought the myth potion just now, and even William who was hosting the auction, laughed bitterly at Lin Li's bid. It wasn't because they had anything against Lin Li, but rather that they felt that it was a wrong move to bid 5 million gold coins. What? He's the one who made that potion? Did they gang up to deceive us? I don't believe that potion was worth 10 million gold coins. Now, there's even this 5 million gold coins branch. After a potion had been sold at a sky-high price, the people downstairs were curious what its effect was. They couldn't imagine what kind of potion would be worth 10 million gold coins. Although these people were sitting downstairs, all of them were influential in their own fields and knew one another, hence, it wasn't difficult for them to find out about this. The Glitter Gold Trade Union had won the bidding for the potion, so some people immediately approached Rob Bio to see what exactly he had spent 10 million gold coins on. How could Rob Bio tell the truth? How could he say that he had spent 10 million gold coins on a potion that hadn't even been tried and tested? He could say this to his boss Hoffman, as Hoffman was a pharmaceutics master himself and respected President Felix pharmaceutics abilities very much. However, he would be viewed as a fool if he had told the truth to other people. Therefore, he had told everyone who came to ask the effect of the potion with much certainty, not mentioning a word about the fact that it was still in an experimental stage. After the people returned from Rob Bio, everyone gasped. A potion that allowed a mage to reach the realm of an archmage without suffering from the side effect of depletion of potential meant that the possibility of reaching the legendary realm wasn't cut off. In other words, 10 million gold coins were extremely worth it. Of course, the precondition was that only a wealthy organization like the Glitter Gold Trade Union could afford to fork out 10 million gold coins. Others wouldn't make up their minds to pay so much. What was more surprising was that Mage Felix, the one who had concocted the myth potion and who was currently sitting in the VIP guest room, had just bid for the branch at 5 million gold coins. Just then, some people recalled that William had led the way for a group of people back at the front hall, before the start of the auction. They had never seen William so respectful to anyone before. Wait, the Tower of Dusk? Isn't that the Guild of Magic we were trying to poach the pharmacists from? The fact that they only thought of this now showed their attitude towards the Tower of Dusk. Much as they valued its pharmacists, they couldn't have cared less about the Tower of Dusk itself. That little brat is the president? No wonder he bid for that branch at 5 million like a nouveau riche just after he earned 10 million gold coins, someone commented sourly. Although these people were green with envy towards the Tower of Dusk, they couldn't help but re-evaluate the value of this seemingly typical branch on stage. Nobody doubted William upon knowing the real identities of the bidders anymore. Mage Felix aside, at least Master Wilkinson wouldn't do something that would damage his own reputation. Even though these people didn't trust that this young president of the Tower of Dusk would be an esteemed pharmaceutics master deep in their hearts, at least Wilkinson was in that guest room too. Maybe Wilkinson had recognized the identity of that branch? Unfortunately, most of them were blocked by the barrier of 5 million gold coins even though they had realized the extraordinariness of that branch by now. The price of 5 million gold coins was beyond the imagination of everyone. After all, this branch wasn't an astonishing potion, precious material, or even magical equipment. Though everyone knew how valuable the natural magical energy it radiated wasn't 5 million gold coins still too much? Theoretically, every faction would be quite anxious about the things they did to the Tower of Dusk after knowing more about it and its young president. After all, even someone as reputable as William could lower his attitude while hosting President Felix and lead the way for him personally. Moreover, the Glitter Gold Trade Union, the Dark Blade, Castellan Arather of Roland City, and even Prince Hilary of the Leaden Kingdom had shown much interest in the myth potion during the previous auction. However, thinking of the nouveau riche-like bid just now, people immediately relaxed, and exclaimed that Lin Li was still just a kid. In the eyes of many, Lin Li was just an immature child too young to intimidate them. The reason why he would be treated with so much respect by Master William was probably because of the accompanying Master Wilkinson and the other high-level pharmacists. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.